Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this port update. I'm Heather Tomley, the Port of Long Beach's Managing Director of Planning and Environmental Affairs. On October 13th, there was momentous news about the future of clean energy in California, specifically our efforts to seed a robust renewable hydrogen market as we pursue zero emissions operations in the next decade. The news? The U.S. Department of Energy announced up to $1.2 billion in federal funding was granted to ARCHES, or the Alliance for Renewable Clean Hydrogen Energy Systems, a public-private partnership formed to lead the statewide bid to create a hydrogen hub to bring clean energy and green jobs to California. The Port of Long Beach has been working within ARCHES and the California Region Hydrogen Ecosystem, and we're proud to have been named in the ARCHES proposal to DOE. We look forward to being able to move forward with projects with our terminal operators, pending negotiation with ARCHES and ARCHES with DOE. Today, to talk about what this means and the incredible opportunity it offers for the future of the nation's largest economy, I'm honored to be joined by Angelina Galiteva, the CEO of ARCHES. Welcome, Angelina.
Thank you so much, Heather. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us today to talk about this important update. So let's hop right into the questions. The Biden administration, through the U.S. Department of Energy, is committing $7 billion in total to launch 7 regional clean hydrogen hubs across the nation. Why is this important, and what could that amount of funding do to move the market?
It's incredibly important because $7 billion across 7 hubs represents an opportunity to create a catalyst for growing a hydrogen system nationwide, starting with the 7 hubs, one of which is California, and then ensuring that we can grow this initiative on a regional basis and a national basis. It was an important initiative because this also allowed us to have much more visibility on the hydrogen opportunities within California. We issued an RFP in California. We received over 100 proposals back with viable hydrogen projects, and we're able to work with these projects, one of which, of course, is the Port of Long Beach and the Port of LA, the largest port complex in the Western Hemisphere. And we're very happy to be able to pursue these projects and ensure that the ports, along with other aspects of the economies, create a system for decarbonizing all sectors of the 4th largest economy across the board. And hydrogen is a key piece as we transition to 70, 80, 90% renewables on the grid. We need hydrogen, we need fuels to be able to decarbonize those very last percentages of carbon-intensive industries into a carbon-free ecosystem. And very excited that the federal government sees this as an opportunity as well, and serves as a catalyst to essentially rocket boost us at high speed into the future.
That's great. To your point about hydrogen, what makes green hydrogen a desirable fuel?
Well, it's like capturing sunshine in a bottle. It is an electric fuel. It's basically electrifying a fuel that we need and that we cannot electrify with batteries or any other means. So taking renewable energy, especially as we build more and more renewables to reach carbon-free electricity by 2045, we're going to have overgeneration. We have overgeneration right now. So hydrogen is an effective sink for that overgeneration, where we can capture that very valuable kilowatt hour that we're generating anyway, bottle it up, and make sure that it's a viable fuel that we can use to decarbonize hard to decarbonize sectors like shipping, aviation, heavy-duty transportation, agriculture, heavy industry, cement, steel, everything across the board. So that has always been the missing piece of how do we get to carbon-free across the board. We can decarbonize the electric system. That's okay, but how do we use that electricity, and especially the excess amount of electricity we have as a result of employing more and more variable resources, such as solar power, such as wind power, and capture that and ensure that we have a viable fuel that can allow us to decarbonize the rest of the sectors and ensure that we have a robust, reliable, resilient, and cost-competitive economy. And I think with this initiative, we're going to be able to accelerate that transition and that solution much faster. So very excited that we were selected as a hub. It wasn't an easy process. The DOE, as a result of their solicitation, received over 79 proposals. They narrowed those proposals down to 33 and asked for complete applications. We were very grateful with all the support that we had from the ports in drafting those applications. 14 of those applicants were invited for interviews with the DOE. We were one of them. And again, happy to have been joined by the CEO of the port in that process. Mario Cordero was wonderful and definitely a key figure. And then out of those 14, they selected 7. And we're one of the leading hubs. In fact, we were told that California's hub is the blueprint of a successful hydrogen ecosystem, and they look forward to working with us, and we look forward to the next steps in the negotiation.
That's great. So what's the biggest challenge in increasing the use of hydrogen as a fuel from your perspective?
You know, I always look at challenge in the opposite way. Challenge is always opportunities, and it's an opportunity to actually take a system that we have right now that is very focused on decarbonizing electricity and making sure that in our effort to electrify everything, we can also electrify fuels. So there's going to be lots of opportunities for us to work across silos and to work across communities and to work with all stakeholders and all partners to ensure that hydrogen fits within the ecosystem and the objectives of California to decarbonize everything by 2045. So a great opportunity will be to ensure that we can do this cost effectively, that we can grow at scale, and we can reduce the cost of hydrogen to where it's on a par with diesel and other fossil alternatives. As we reach that point, it's then going to be pretty much, I hope so, easy sailing, no pun intended, and ensure that we're able to decarbonize all sectors of the economy across the board, because not only are we going to have a cost-competitive electric system, because renewables is a result of the really good programs that were implemented 10, 20 years ago and now the cheapest resource on the grid. We want to make sure that we roll out policies and we roll out initiatives to where hydrogen can follow the same formula as renewables and batteries and electric vehicles and quickly become the lowest cost alternative and at the same time the cleanest alternative that will allow us to cost effectively decarbonize across the board. And we want to reach that point sooner rather than later.
So what will happen next as the state begins to receive its $1.2 billion in federal funding? What do you see as the first rollouts of that funding?
Fingers crossed that we do that, and we do that very quickly. It is all subject to negotiation with DOE. We have earned the opportunity to receive up to $1.2 billion, and we are confident that through the process, our projects and working with partners like the ports will be able to achieve that goal. So the next step is going to be to focus on the 3 sectors that we have always focused on in terms of rolling them out and knowing that they're ready to go with stakeholders that are posed to begin putting steel in the ground very quickly, and that's power, ports, and heavy-duty transportation. So we'll be focusing on those areas statewide to ensure that we develop an ecosystem that very carefully balances offtake and production, so that we can incentivize the production of clean hydrogen on a par with the increase of demand for green hydrogen, so we can very quickly achieve the objectives that I stated. We want to bring the cost down to where it is cost competitive with diesel. And we also want to reach the goal that the DOE has, which is achieving $1 per kilogram in 1 decade. So hopefully we can do that.
Excellent. There are a number of lower carbon fuels on the market, but petroleum fuels are still ubiquitous, especially for the general public. How can a robust green hydrogen market change the way that's viewed?
Well, hopefully we're going to be able to achieve what electric vehicles have achieved. Electric vehicles have been extremely cost effective. People have a greater comfort level driving them. Charging infrastructure is available everywhere. And folks are understanding that the electric vehicle can also be an asset in terms of plugging it into your home and supporting your home. And it has a much wider use case than just petroleum vehicles. Where hydrogen is most effective is in heavy duty transport, and in transit agencies, buses that have longer routes and that carry a heavier load. So we want to make sure that diesel, especially diesel, which is so harmful to our communities and so harmful for air quality, is easily displaced by hydrogen. That has the same use case. It can basically carry the heavy loads, it can carry the passengers, and it drives clean, and there's no emissions. So the faster we can replace diesel and especially harmful emission vehicles, such as the drayage trucks and the heavy duty trucks and transit buses, the faster we're going to be able to make an impact into the communities and ensure a transition to carbon-free in sectors where it was difficult to achieve otherwise. So again, it's a pathway for electrifying everything. Hydrogen is an electric fuel. Fuel cell buses, fuel cell transit trucks are electric vehicles because they're using an electric fuel, and we look at them as zero-emission electric vehicles too. So it's part of the family of carbon-free solutions across the board, and we should be moving in that direction, and hopefully we'll be able to facilitate that. And I think the communities will welcome it, because who doesn't want only clean water coming out of their exhaust as opposed to diesel?
Right.
And if it's cheaper than diesel, then it's even better.
Absolutely. So pulling out your crystal ball, what does a successful hydrogen ecosystem in California look like in 2050? And what do you think this looks like at the Port of Long Beach?
Well, we have a goal by 2050. So we're starting at about 6,000 metric tons per year produced hydrogen, which is what we have now, and none of it is really green. Transitioning that to green, but by 2030 and 2032, which is the goal of the hub, we're looking at producing 100,000 metric tons per year of green renewable hydrogen. And by 2045, in order to decarbonize everything, including ports, power, industry, transportation, we're looking at 17 million metric tons per year produced. So that is, a sign of success. And we're looking at the ports comprising over 5% of that altogether, and shipping is going to be even more. And in terms of healthcare benefits, we're looking at 2.95 billion in healthcare cost savings statewide in terms of reduced sick days, reduced death, reduced asthma, and reduced hospitalizations. We're looking at over 200,000 new jobs. And as you know, labor is a partner in ARCHES, and those are projects that are going to have PLAs, so the PLAs, project labor agreements, which means family sustaining jobs, which is absolutely critical for us. We're looking at 1% of all project costs going into community benefit projects, which will amount to $150 million in benefits directly to the communities, empowering those communities to have economic development, participate in the project ecosystem, have access to jobs. And then we're looking at education and training programs for this new renewable ecosystem that will coordinate a certification process from high schools to community colleges to training institutes to state schools and the UCs across the board. And of course, we're very lucky to have the University of California as a system participating in ARCHES together with 2 national labs. So we have the good fortune of having the expertise, the experience, the projects, as well as labor partners. And we're looking forward to working with all of our community partners as well to ensure that we can deliver the community benefits program. So success is very much shared throughout the state, throughout all stakeholders, and throughout the port ecosystem as well. And we look forward to working with everyone at the port, as we have been until now, to make sure that we deliver on time, on schedule, and in the most optimized fashion.
Excellent. Tell us about the role you believe hydrogen can play in the goods movement industry and how you see the San Pedro Bay ports advancing the state's hydrogen hub.
Well, twofold. The ports are extremely important in terms of decarbonizing ground operations. So port equipment and decarbonizing that with hydrogen to the extent that we can, and also collaborating with battery-powered equipment as well. But trucking and goods movement is extremely important. As we know, the 710 corridor is very congested, and diesel pollution is a serious problem, as I stated before. So decarbonizing heavy-duty trucking in and out of the ports is going to be very important. Last but not least, international shipping. Those are centers for economic development throughout the state. And we need to ensure that we have competitive ports for the 21st century. As we start to build and see the construction of green ports and green shipping internationally, it's important for hydrogen to play a role in the complex as well and ensure that we can receive ships that utilize clean fuels and that indeed our ships utilize clean fuels as well. So green shipping is absolutely important, and the ports are going to play a vital role in ensuring that hydrogen becomes a global commodity. So we need to be competitive in how we produce hydrogen here because it would likely be exported. We may be importing some hydrogen as well, but we need to be able to embrace an ecosystem of clean fuels across the board. And shipping is a major, major factor and an area that we need to decarbonize. And we certainly need a fuel, as I said, sunshine captured in a bottle, decarbonizing our shipping routes.
Excellent. Thank you, Angelina. We really appreciate you sharing your insights with us today. We're all excited to begin the hydrogen era at the Port of Long Beach. It will be an important tool as we leverage multiple fuels and technologies to achieve zero emissions, first with cargo handling equipment by 2030 and drayage trucks by 2035, and eventually decarbonize all links in the supply chain, as you mentioned. And we thank President Biden and Governor Gavin Newsom for their commitment to a more sustainable future. Thank you all for watching another Port Update.